Yo, yo, yo. So, I'm here to share with you guys who are interested to listen my first encounter, sort of my gateway to magic and to this spiritual, esoteric world. And I was thinking, like, where should I start? Because my journey has been quite long, for sure. And so where I decided to start was dreams and the power of lucid dreaming. And also because I thought that this topic is very timely, because I have this sense that people that, well, especially people that are in touch with their magical, spiritual side, might experience a lot more dreams, a lot more intense dreams. And lucid dreaming right now is very, even more accessible, if you will. So, and also because there is so much power specifically in lucid dreaming. So, here we go. So, the first dreams, and those of you who don't know what lucid dreaming is basically a kind of dream where you are aware inside of the dream that you are dreaming. Like, you know that this is a dream and you can control the dream, you can manifest and create sort of your own dream story. And you can, let's say, before you go to sleep, you can kind of decide if you want to continue a dream that you saw previously or whatnot. Like, you can kind of make up these rules and storylines in the real world and use them in your lucid dreaming. So the first dreams that I started to lucid dream were about Atlantis, about Lemuria, about the ocean. And it's kind of interesting because ever since I can remember dreaming, so let's say maybe I was like 3 years old when I can remember that I was dreaming, I only knew how to lucid dream. Like, I did it automatically. And so when I got older, it was almost like, because there was a point where I kind of lost my ability to lucid dream. It had something to do with I was going through some things and I became kind of scared to dream because my dreams were getting kind of crazy and very anxiety driven. So I just wanted to block the dreams altogether. And then when I again wanted to start to lucid dream, it was kind of hard because I did it so automatically when I was younger, although there was something specific that I did, but it was so automatical that it was hard for me to remember exactly what I did or how I did it. But anyway, so the first dreams that I lucid dreamt were about Lemuria and about Atlantis. And there's not so much to talk about that, but the fact that I felt such a sense of coming home when I dreamt about those dreams. Those were the kind of dreams where when I woke up, I just wanted to go back to sleep. And I often did, because I felt like I was home. I knew of that world, like I knew the ocean like the back of my hands. It was just such a familiar place. It felt like home. And I can't specifically remember how the cities looked, but I do remember there was like a sense of something very sci-fi mixed with something ancient. in those cities. So, you know, the cities were very technologically advanced. That I do remember. And I do also remember that often I did have the ability to also walk on earth. So from time to time, I did have legs, and it was often related to when if I had like a love interest in here on earth, like a human person that I fancied, you know, then I could kind of come to earth. So there's that. So yeah, so that was my first touchstone and experience with sort of oceanic magic and the mermaids. And then I started very heavily to see prophetic dreams. And this one specific dreams that I never forget is I was pretty young. I was like 5 years old, and I repeatedly saw this dream about this villa. It was like an old colonial haunted house, those type of house that they have in New Orleans, you know, kind of like plantation houses. I don't know what's the correct term, but those type of houses, like a spirit house, a voodoo house, if you will. So I entered to that house, and you know, it was interesting because on the outside the house didn't look scary at all. It was bright. It was this pale yellow color, really pretty. But on the inside, it was quite, you know, eerie and a little, you know, intimidating and scary. So you know, I was being escorted around the villa, around the halls of the villa by these different creatures that were very kind of voodoo-ish, very spooky, Halloweenish looking characters, and something very spirited away about those characters as well. But also now that I, you know, explored this world more, I connect those beings, some of them, to the Fae realm as well, because we have this image of the Fae realm being just like Tinkerbell like beings, but actually the Fae realm is very vast, and there is a lot of different types of beings connected to the Fae realms, and a lot of them look super intimidating and scary. And you know, a lot of the Fae realm beings they really move between the dream world and this world of ours, because they can break through different dimensions and parallel universes. And you know, a lot of the Fae beings are dream messengers and dream tricksters as well. So keep that in mind, because the Fae realm, you know, there's a lot of tricksters in the Fae realm. So if you are connected to the Fae realm, you know, they can come into your dreams for sure. So I was being escorted around this villa by these different creatures and spirits, and you know, the ancestors are also very connected spirits, you know, so people who have passed on, you know, are moving through the dream world as well. So I was being escorted around this villa by these different creatures, beings, and they stopped me in front of this bench that was inside this villa. And on the bench, there were 3 girls sitting on the bench. And I looked at the girls and they looked at me. I clearly saw their faces and everything. And they asked me in unison, do you like cheese? And they would ask me this over and over and over. And, you know, it's rather, you know, peculiar statement. But you know, I have to mention that my favorite snack when I was younger was something I named creatively cheese goo. And it was melted cheese on a platter that I ate with a fork. So cheese goo. So I don't know if that had something to do with it. And also, some people claim that cheese gives you nightmares. And you know, I'm not gonna get too deep into that, but I do know that there is some type of connection with milk products and dreams. Like they, you know, whether it's negative or positive, but there is a connection there, like a correspondent there. So I saw these three girls, and now fast forward when I started first grade. So I was 6 or 7 when my first grade started, and we had just moved, located from this other place to another, to a new neighborhood, to a new brand new area, and I did not know anybody from this area. Brand new people, brand new, you know, hoods and everything. So lo and behold, I sat down the first day in our classroom and I looked around, and these three girls from my dreams were sitting in my class. And, you know, all of those three girls became very important people to me throughout my childhood, and I still keep in contact with some of them, and all of them I think with a lot of warmth. And, you know, I also feel like some of these girls, if not all, were pretty witchy themselves. Not that they ever claimed to be a witch, but just in my head I kind of feel like they have a very witchy vibe. And also these three girls were the first people who told me that I indeed am a witch, because they were friends before they knew me, before I knew them. And one day I was playing and talking with one of the girls, and you know, she started to tell me, you know what, before we knew you, we were really scared of you because we were convinced that you are a witch. And I was quite insulted, you know, because a word witch, you know, it was a little negative to me back then, although I was fascinated with like witches, but I didn't want to be scary, obviously. But they were like convinced, and I asked the girl, like, why did you guys think of that way? And she was like, I don't know, we used to talk on recess, like, do you think she's a witch? Yeah, I think so too, you know. There's just something about him, like her eyes and just the energy, and like, she is a witch, I know she is, you know. And that was pretty interesting that they were the first people that used that term of me. So that was that. And then a third dream that held importance to me was this sort of, let's say, an adventure dream. So I often dreamt of this city, and I know that it was the same city, but it did vary a little bit from time to time. But basically it was this city that was surrounded by these barbed wire fences and big stone walls. It was kind of like a guarded city, and the people that lived inside of that city were very eerie, because my mission was to kind of infiltrate to the city, like a spy-like character, you know, incognito, because I could not expose myself for the citizens that lived in the city, because like I was saying, they were very eerie, almost like they seemed to be living like normal lives, but they were not normal. They were like almost like under some sort of mind control. And if they sensed that you were not one of them, they would kind of report you to the forces that were controlling the city. Because in the center of that city was this facility, a jail, and my mission in these dreams was to get inside of that jail facility and free the people that were held captive inside of these facilities. And you know, also what was interesting about these cities, like I said, sometimes they varied. But one thing that I remember specifically was that the stores, like the grocery stores or, you know, clothing stores that they had in these cities were bazaars. So if you don't know what a bazaar is, how would I say this, like, without sounding politically incorrect? You know, English is not my first language, so, you know, cut me some slack here. But like these Middle Eastern type of stores, you know, bazaars. I think you guys know what a bazaar is. I mean, you guys are smart. So, you know, there was this sense of like Middle Easterny vibe about these cities sometimes. Like they didn't necessarily look Middle Eastern in any other way, but the stores, like the marketplaces, were always like Middle Eastern, which was interesting. Um, so, uh, so in the middle of the cities where was this facility, this jail, and the jail held captive normal people like me, like us, and you know, the jails were huge. They were these huge, almost like skyscraper like buildings that were made from this gray slick, you know, shiny stone. And there was something, I don't know why, but there was something like very pyramid like about them, although they were not in the shape of a pyramid, but somehow they reminded me of a pyramid. um, and inside of these buildings there were like huge jail cells, and one of these cells would hold like tens and you know, like one cell would hold like plenty, many people, like children, old people, men, women, you know. And so my mission was to get inside of this jail and somehow free the people. And I would repeatedly go back to this dream because I felt if I did not you know, manage to free the people, I felt so what's the word, I just felt like so, like I hadn't accomplished my mission. Like I was determined to complete the dream, and I would make myself see that dream every night, although the dream was a little disturbing because the jail facilities were run by these creatures that had lizard-like lizard-like features, but I don't know if they were reptilians per se, because there's something about the reptilians that for me they in my head, the reptilian race and the theories about them, there's something missing there. Like I'm not entirely sure if the reptilians are fully just bad, but maybe, I'm not sure. I'm kind of exploring this topic right now myself. But they were like mixed between like these lizard like beings and, you know, some other kind of monstrous looking thing, kind of also like orcs from Lord of the Rings, like little bit like that. And they did walk on two legs, and they spoke our language, but they had a language of their own. And they were guards inside of these jails, and there were also some human guards in these jails. But you know, the energy that these humans had was so, almost like they didn't have souls really anymore. And these people that they held captive were being used as labor. They were slaves, basically. And they used these people to build more of these jail facilities and also to build dams. So I'm not sure if the dam is the right word, but you know, to build these huge fences that keep water from, you know, flowing, so dams. So, the people were, used as labor, as slaves. And also they used these people for food. So indeed they did eat these people, and sometimes they would throw these people over from these buildings just for fun, and they would laugh. And also they fed off from the energy of these people. They fed off from the fears and from the screams of these people. And all these guards and these other beings were being controlled by this boss being that lived in top of this jail facility, and no one had ever seen the boss, but everyone could feel his presence, and it was just pure evil, like oppressive, like soul-sucking energy that this being held. And as I was thinking, because I did eventually manage to infiltrate in the jail, I was one of the people, I was one of the captives there. And I made friends with some of the people, from my cell and things of that nature. And every night I thought, how can I, because in my head, I wanted to meet the boss, because it was in my head that in order for all this to crumble, the boss needs to be taken down. And, from time to time, the guards would choose few of the people to take to the boss so the boss could eat some of the people that were held captive. And so I came up with this plan that I need to be chosen to get eaten by the boss so I can meet the boss and defeat him face to face. So one day I was chosen to be eaten by the boss, and I was taken by this elevator on top of the building where the boss held space. And the boss was this energy, a little bit like fiery energy, that was living in between these two stone concrete pillars, a lot like the all-seeing eye from Lord of the Rings. And the boss, the energy, could speak, and it spoke very eloquently, but it had like this beast-like voice. And when I saw the boss, when we were eye to eye, the boss was kind of becoming very frantic, like almost like he knew that I knew I was dreaming. And he started to yell at me like, "You're gonna die, what are you doing here? Why did you bring this girl here? You're gonna die, you're gonna die." And I just answered to the boss like, "You held no real power here. I know I cannot die. This is just a dream. You can't kill me." And the boss became so angry, he started to yell like, "Ah, ah." And somehow I came up with this plan that I need to jump in the eye of the eye. So I kind of needed to jump inside of the boss, because the boss was also like some sort of portal in a way. So I took some momentum and I jumped inside of the eye. And immediately when I jumped into the eye, I woke up. And as I was waking up from this dream, I could just see these images of that place like crumbling down. I saw how the people were freed from the cells, and they hugged their loved ones and cried, and they were, finally able to go back, home and living their normal lives. And, this was a dream I saw so often. And when I finally accomplished my goal of, freeing these people, I felt so good. Like I felt so accomplished, such a sense of completion and just pure happiness, like I did my mission, And, what these types of lucid dreams really ultimately taught me was that I started to think, this is the revelation that I had when I was younger about lucid dreaming. So, you know how they say that, dreams are just dreams, it's not reality, blah, blah, blah. But for me, it didn't make sense because I thought that if I can use my logical mind inside of this dream world that is not supposed to be logical, but I can use information that I took previously from the previous day, from my real life when I was awake, and use that knowledge to control this world that I'm living in. And often some of these beings also were aware that I knew I was dreaming. So the more I thought about that, the more I started to kind of think, so what really is the difference between our world and the dream world? And if I can use knowledge from another world inside of another world, shouldn't that work, backwards as well? So how can I use the knowledge that I have in this dream world in this real world? And so one day I tested this out, and this is not, the best example, but I need to preface this by saying that I was really young, so I'm gonna tell this story really fast. So I was at school, maybe I was in second grade or something, and our favorite pastime during recess was to go on this swing that was called the Tarzan swing. And the Tarzan swing was kind of a mix of zip lining and ski lift. And, it was the swing that was wired between these two pillars. And there was this wire and, on the other side of the wire, on the bottom of the wire, there was this plastic disc, and you would put the disc in between your legs, and then there was this little hill, and you would, climb on top of the hill and take off. Like you would take momentum from that hill and just swing to the other side. And there was this girl in our school who wasn't particularly nice to me or the other kids. She was very extremely manipulative, and I felt like she needed to be taken down a notch. And one day, as we were walking to the Tarzan swings, a plan, if you will, came to my mind where I decided to use the same creation power that I have in my lucid dreams in my real life. And I just started to imagine this scenario where this girl would fall down from the Tarzan swing. And I just kept in mind, like, this is like the dream world. I have the same power here that I have in my lucid dreams. And I specifically visualized how the fall would happen and everything. And, lo and behold, as the time came for the girl to go to the swing, she fell down. And what was interesting about this, immediately when the girl hit the ground, she lifted her head and looked straight at me, and I knew that she knew that I somehow did it. And as we were even walking back from the swings back to the class, the girl was like frantic. She was like telling her friends, like, I'm telling you, like, she did it somehow, like, I know she did it. And her friends were like, okay, well, yeah, sure, like, you're cuckoo. And even I was like, yeah, like, she's crazy, and that's awful. So I'm not telling to do that to anyone, but I was young. I certainly would not do that anymore because I believe in karma. I'm gonna let her handle everything. But I was young, and I'm just saying that, like, that was my first awful, experiment with this power. So what I'm getting at it is this. Lucid dreaming really can unlock your real life magic, creative, manifesting powers that you held that you really, have in your fingertips. my time is cutting off, so I'm trying to speak faster. But so, you know, just keep that in mind. Like, you are the creator, you know, you really have all the power. No one ever really dies. And there's this beautiful quote by Rumi, and it goes like this: "This place is a dream. Only a sleeper considers it real. Then death comes like dawn, and you wake up laughing at what you thought was your grief." And I just think that's a very beautiful thing, beautiful poem, if you will. And yeah, so namaste. No one ever really dies. And oneness. And take your power back. Bye.